Hi everyone, so glad you could join us today for the Taste Chocolate from the Source tasting. I'm Sally, I'm with Argencove Chocolate. I'm one of the co-owners and also the chocolate maker here in Nicaragua. And today we're going to talk through the chocolate making process, what's involved, the different steps, and I'm also going to introduce you to the different chocolate makers at Origin whose chocolate you're going to try today. So when we talk about craft chocolate, what is the difference? It's not a regular candy bar, as I'm sure most of you know. It's handcrafted, small batches. You're really talking about a difference in quality. So when it comes to ingredients, there's minimal ingredients, and it's about featuring the cacao, not the sugar or any other added ingredients. So if you want to think of it like a hamburger, get ready to indulge in a ribeye steak. So if you haven't already done so, let's get the table set, ready for our tasting. Maybe a spoon, a plate, a napkin per person. We want to have some room temperature water because like wine, we're going to cleanse the palate between each tasting. If you're sharing, maybe a sharp knife or cutting board, that might be helpful. And also maybe a pen, paper, also the tasting guide that we've provided if you want to take notes during the different tasting. So if you want to pause the video now and get anything ready, and then get yourself ready for a tasting of chocolate from the source. So craft chocolate is all about transparency and understanding where your ingredients come from. So we're going to go straight to the farm now, talk through the different processes there just so we can see how chocolate is made. So this is where it all begins. So the flower of the cacao is about the size of your little finger. I've actually got one here, you can see. So it's quite small, it's absolutely gorgeous. It has a very low pollination rate, but when they are pollinated, you can see here's an example. That's my finger of a small pod, and then they grow on over 5 months to mature until harvest. So this is a cacao tree. We've got cacao pods here at different stages. The dark red ones are smaller, they're not ready for harvest. But the ones on the right that are a little bit red and yellow, they're changing colour, which is an indication that they're now ready for harvest. For example, I have a pod here it's mature, it's gone from green to yellow. So with that change of colour, we know now that it's the 5 months have passed and that it's ripe. So once the pods are harvested, they're generally taken to a collection area where they're cut open. In this amazing photo, you can see so many different colours in pods, all these different varieties. When you think about it, it makes sense that when you have different varieties of a fruit, that you're going to have different tasting notes when we come to the chocolate. So when you think about things like grapes for wine or even apples, different varieties being one of the contributing factors for different tasting notes. So when we cut the pods open, these are the beans. These are fresh cacao beans that we'll use later to go on to make chocolate. So you can see that they're fresh, they're white, they're fleshy, and they have this incredible smell. I've got one just here. I'm going to show you guys. So you pop that open, and it's quite juicy to touch, very sweet. And then these are the beans that pull off and are then fermented and dried and then go on to make the chocolate. So here we have the cacao seeds removed from the pod and they've been collected, ready to go to the fermentation area. We talked about earlier that craft chocolate is about quality. So what we see here are white, fresh beans. What we don't see mold, we don't see brown beans that have been left for days, we don't see germinated seeds. And it's really important to make this distinction because if you don't start with a quality product, it's very difficult to make a quality product. And that's what craft chocolate is about. So here we have the fermentation facility. Now, fermentation can take up to 6 to 8 days, and this really does depend on the variety of bean, the protocol that the company has. It depends on a lot of things. What you can see here are the wooden boxes. This is generally how craft chocolate is fermented. And in this case, we have a cascade with the boxes, so they're easier when they turn the beans, and some banana leaves covering the top. So now I want to introduce Layla to you. She's from Ecuador and she's going to talk to us about cacao fruit.
My name is Laila Carvajal. I'm the founder of Coco Supply and Chocolatier. Coco Supply is the distributor where we sell our products worldwide, Netherlands, US, and Australia, and all Europe. Today I would like to talk to you about our cacao fruit nectar, which is 100% cacao pulp that has been separated from the beans through a centrifuge, and then it has been pasteurized so that it becomes shelf stable, and that's also why you see it becomes a little bit more beige because of the caramelization. The flavor of the cacao nectar is a little bit citrusy, somehow reminds you a little bit of lychee, floral undertones, and even though it doesn't go directly as an ingredient into the chocolate, it has some flavor undertones that appear due to the fermentation. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit, and if you would like more information, please let us know, and enjoy your cacao.
So after fermentation is the drying phase. Different companies have different protocols for drying. It's still quite a really important stage for flavour development for the bean. Beans might be dried in the sun. They might be also dried via different machines, just depending on the company and where they're located. So once the beans are dried, they are then stored, and generally in these 100-pound bags. So storage is really important from a moisture point of view. We don't want moisture getting in, preventing insects, mold, and that sort of thing. And the beans actually need to cure or age like wine before we can actually make them into chocolate. And you might notice that there are no forklifts in this photo here. So the beans have now left the farm and they've arrived at the chocolate factory. Here they're generally sorted before they're roasted. With the roasting process, it's a bit like coffee in that it can be a lighter roast, a darker roast. There's lots of different profiles, with the idea being to bring out the different tasting notes. So after roasting, the beans are then winnowed. During the winnowing process, the beans are cracked with the shell that's removed, and the beans themselves are then basically become nibs. They're cracked into a smaller size fraction so that they're ready for the grinding or conching process. I'd now like to introduce to you Jose Alejandro from the Dominican Republic, and he's going to talk to us about the precursor to chocolate, which is cacao nibs.
Hello guys, I'm Jose Alejandro, co-founder for Cacao My, a family-owned business located at the heart of the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. So as our brand says, we make a lot of products of chocolate, one of them being cacao nibs, which are bits of toasted, roasted, and peeled cacao, which are perfect as a crunchy topping for your favorite dessert. They got an intense chocolate flavor with some special fruity notes, which is the dominant profile flavor of the Dominican cacao. And we also got our Cacao My powder, perfect to go with the brownie alongside the nibs. It's perfect for bakery, it's organic, no GMO, no sugar added, 100% cacao. It's ideal for anything you want to make, bake, or drink. We try to work the most sustainable way possible, working with the organic certified cacao farms and giving the most utmost care and quality control to our products.
Now we're going to talk about refining and conching. So this is the process where the nibs are effectively ground into a cacao paste, and then eventually with the help of cacao butter, which occurs naturally within the bean, it becomes a cacao liquor. Now, this process, it can take from a few hours to a few days, and it really depends on the type of equipment and the machines that the company are using. This process also really affects the particle size and the chemical structure of the chocolate. It's also during this step that sugar is added and cacao butter where applicable. So now the chocolate is in a liquid form, or maybe it's been made into blocks and it's ready for the tempering process. Now, tempering can be either through hand tempering or using a tempering machine, and the purpose of it is to stabilize the chocolate. So what we do is we raise the temperature of the chocolate and then it's lowered back down until we get the exact crystal structure forming to maintain the shelf life, so that when it melts on your tongue, it melts evenly, it's shiny, it maintains its color, And of course, when you break the chocolate, it snaps nicely. So next we have the molding process. This can either be hand poured or dose operated through a machine. I've just got an example of a mold here, so you can see the 3 cavities of the chocolate bars. It's polycarbonate, it's quite hard. And what's important is that the chocolate is poured quickly, any vibrating occurs to get rid of any air bubbles in the chocolate, and then it's moved into a cooling space. So that could be a tunnel, a fridge, or somewhere else, so the chocolate's allowed to cool before it goes out of temperature. So now that our chocolate bars have been molded, they need to be packaged. When you're talking about packaging of chocolate made at origin, we're normally talking about hand wrapping. So here are just some examples of the beautiful packaging that craft chocolate makers have. And as a reminder, obviously on the back, you've got the ingredients, so you can see exactly what ingredients are in the bar. You also might see the origin of the cacao and a story about the chocolate maker. Okay, so it's almost chocolate tasting time. We're going to try our first origin, but before we begin, we want to talk about how to actually taste chocolate. So grab your cacao chocolate bar sample, get it ready. We're going to practice with this, but don't taste just yet. So now we're going to taste the chocolate, and when we taste chocolate, we use all of our senses. I'm going to talk through this in a bit of detail, so if you want to take any notes, just grab your pen. So first of all is sight. So when we look at the chocolate, is it shiny, is it smooth textured, or is it ground? With the sound, so take your chocolate, piece of well-tempered chocolate. When you break it, you will hear a snap when you break a bit off. Smell. So in your fingers, just rub the chocolate a little bit, and this will warm it up. And then inhale, and you should inhale the aromas and get an idea of what different tasting notes of the chocolate is going to have. Taste. Take a small piece of the chocolate, break it off, put it in your mouth, maybe chew it a few times, move it around, let it melt on your tongue, and when it should be melting evenly, and it's going to help with the release of aromas. And sometimes what happens is there's a release of one tasting note, then another, but they evolve and it changes as the chocolate melts. Touch is the last one. So we kind of interpret this as mouthfeel. So is it melting quickly? Is it a quick melt? Is it a slower melt? Is it creamy, or is it in fact a bit gritty? So these are some of the senses, or the senses that we use when we taste chocolate. And when we go through and tasting all the different chocolate from the chocolate makers at origin, these are the things to take note of. So now I'd like to introduce Maria from Cacao in Mexico, and she is going to introduce her bar and what she tastes.
Hello, my name is Maria, and I'm the founder of Cacao, a Mexican bean-to-bar chocolate brand. We source our cacao directly with small farmers in different regions in Chiapas, in Southeast Mexico, paying 3 times over the fair trade market price. We craft our cacao, taking care of every step of the process in order to highlight the cacao natural flavors into our chocolate, without using any additives or flavorings. Today, I'm really excited to introduce to you our 76% cacao bar from Pichucalco, Chiapas. The cacao used for this bar was harvested by the Villa Contreras family in Hacienda Napana in Pichucalco, Chiapas. This bar features natural almond and vanilla flavors with a hint of berries. I really hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoy making it.
So we've been learning about craft chocolate and all the detailed protocols and process that from the farm to the chocolate making to make that quality product. Let's talk about some of the things that can happen that need to be managed. So cacao is naturally bitter due to flavonols, and careful fermentation can help reduce this, as can roasting. In fact, large companies often over-roast their cacao to hide any defects. Aging. Like fine wine, cacao mellows as it ages, and this can also help to reduce bitterness. Astringency. Now, you might have heard people talk about this. This is when it's like a rough sensation, a dryness in your mouth. You can also find it with coffee and wine. So as fermentation can help manage this, as can adding cocoa butter or milk, just to round that out and reduce any astringency. Graininess, texture, obviously that's part of the refining process. And if a bar isn't tempered well, it might be soft or grainy and discoloured, and obviously that's something that we want to avoid. Moving on now to Venezuela, where 2020 are going to introduce us to their chocolate.
Hi guys, this is Moises here from 2020 Chocolates. I am the son of Alfredo. Alfredo is the owner and founder of 2020 Chocolates. 2020 Chocolates is a very special project. We are a tree-to-bar brand located in Venezuela. We make all of our bars in Venezuela. All of the beans that we use are from Venezuela. And I say tree-to-bar because we do use some beans from our own plantations. We own and operate 3 plantations in Venezuela, 2 in the state of Yaracuy, 1 in the state of Carabobo. The one in Carabobo has a fermentation room and post-harvest, drying fields and all of that. 2020 was that refers to the cocoa belt, 20 degrees north, 20 degrees south of the equator, which is the only place where cocoa beans can grow in the world. I believe you guys tasted the Yaracuy bar, and that's one of our, very favorites. It is our darkest bar, 74%. And, Yaracuy is not a very popular origin in the US or even in Venezuela. We consider ourselves pioneers with that origin. We recover a couple of plantations that used to plant other crops in that area, and then we planted cocoa trees back in 2018, 2019. And what you're tasting is a few of the first batches from those beans from our farms in La Cocorota and Hacienda Puente Rio. I taste, for me, very citric fruit notes on that bar, a very pleasant astringency as well. And again, it's one of our favorite ones. I hope you guys enjoy it a lot. Thank you.
Now we're going to talk about ethical sourcing and value chain and the importance of this for craft chocolate. So we're going to talk about the term tree to bar. Now you might have heard other people talk about farm to table. It's a similar concept. So for tree to bar, the farmer is also the chocolate maker. Cacao is manually harvested, as I'm sure you know, and it doesn't often grow in these massive plantations. So for this reason, what happens is often tree-to-bar makers will buy from their neighbouring farms. Chocolate made at origin. So this is chocolate that is transformed from the dry cacao beans into chocolate in the country where the cacao is grown. So what's really cool about this is you've got more jobs, more training, capacity building for that local economy in the country where the cacao is grown. So now we're going to take you to Nicaragua, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our company, Argencove Chocolate. Hi, I'm Sally McFadyen from Argencove Chocolate. I'm one of the co-founders and also the chocolate maker here. So we're based in Granada in Nicaragua in Central America. We've been making chocolate now for over 6 years, and we've won over 86 international awards in that time. We have our own cacao farm, about 10-15 minutes from the city of Granada, where we have a chocolate factory. What was really important for us is that when we set up the cacao farm was having a scientific approach to farm design, fermentation, and genetics, but also during our chocolate making process as well. Today, we're going to try our Mombacho bar. It's a 70%. It's only 2 ingredients. And it has tasting notes of raisins, cranberries, and blackberries. This bar it's quite thin, so you might notice all of our bars are this thickness. It was specifically chosen that way because of the experience that you have when it melts on your tongue. For us, really enjoy this bar. It is one of our favorites. And if you enjoy wine, I recommend pairing it with a Shiraz or a full-bodied red wine. I hope you enjoy our bar. So direct trade. Now, this is when the cacao beans are purchased directly from the cacao producers. And the emphasis here is on quality and transparency, which is what we've been talking about with craft chocolate. So what you normally find is direct trade companies, they will go and visit the different producers regularly in the country. And this is to develop relationships so the producers know what the chocolate makers are looking for, and to agree on have contracts in many cases about stability for pricing, and obviously that it's done in a transparent format. 11 Cacao in Jamaica has been trading directly for many years, so I'm pleased to introduce Nick to lead us through our next bar. And direct trade, it's not just limited to farmers or chocolate makers. You can connect directly with 11 Cacao through their website for in-person, and it's also virtual tours for the farm and chocolate making experiences. Virtual tours are a great way to support Jamaican businesses as they recover from Hurricane Melissa.
Hi everybody, so it's Nick here, just coming into our studio space. Welcome to 11 Cacao's new home here in the historic port of Falmouth. You can see the equipment in the background, just doing a little bit of experimentation, camera back there. Today you're going to get a chance to try a wonderful bean from the north coast of Jamaica. It is made by Comsi and two other farmers who we work alongside in St Mary. So wonderfully buttery bar, very high cocoa butter content, almost tastes like a milk chocolate. So I hope you enjoy it. Lots of love from Martha and I in Jamaica.
We talked about tree to bar earlier. Now we're talking about bean to bar. This is when chocolate is made from starting with the raw beans, going through the process of the roasting, winnowing, the refining, the conching, the tempering, the moulding, etc., until you get to the finished chocolate bar. And we talked about. So just for a bit of fun, we thought we might take a poll. If you're tasting in a group, maybe just pause the video and have a look at the options. If you're tasting by yourself, quickly read through and maybe pause the video before continuing. Okay, so in the US, what is the minimum amount of cocoa you need to legally call it chocolate? Is it A, 5%? Is it B, 10%? C, 20%? D, 25%? Or E, 35%? Okay, so in Europe, it's actually 35%, Canada, 25%, and the US, it's 10%. And in the US, dark chocolate is not actually defined, so it can have as little as 10% cocoa content, and it can even have milk in it. Semi-sweet chocolate, however, is quite strictly defined, and it must contain at least 35% cocoa content. Milk chocolate is 10% cocoa, but because the US are better at growing cows than cocoa, it requires 12% milk. For white chocolate, the minimum requirement is 20% cocoa butter. So that's more cocoa than milk or dark chocolate. Now, for white chocolate, it is also limited to the percentage of sugar that it can have. It's 55% sugar by weight, which means white chocolate can have less sugar than milk chocolate, which can be over 70% sugar, or even less sugar than bittersweet chocolate, which can contain up to 65% sugar. So we're just going to talk about ingredients and labelling for a moment, because we know that so many of you are conscious about your health, recognise that dark chocolate is good for your health, and knowing what the ingredients are is really important. Cocoa and cacao are often interchangeable. So cacao is used typically when talking about the raw beans, and cocoa is used when talking about roasted beans or powder. The cacao beans should be the first ingredient when you're reading the label. The FDA requires that the ingredients are listed from highest to lowest. If it's fine chocolate, then you should also see the percentage of the cocoa mentioned on the label. And generally what you see is the cacao content or cacao ingredients, the sugar, and then there might be the optional things like the cocoa butter, any relevant inclusions. For non-GMO, it's probably best to avoid beet sugar and soy lecithin. And for high antioxidants, avoid Dutch or anything that's alkalized. Clean ingredients labels and delicious chocolate all start at the farm. So we're really excited about our next bar. It's a farm-to-table bar from Honduras. Here's Elmer from Yahoya Chocolate.
Hello, my name is Elmer Pineda. From Yahoya Chocolate. We are in Honduras at the Yahoya Lake. My wife and I, we are producers from tree to bar. Means we have a plantation and we produce our chocolate all the way from the bar, from the fruit to the chocolate. Today, I want to present a special bar. This bar was made with 0 kilometers ingredients. All the ingredients were produced in the area. We started with the cacao, which was produced in our plantation. Also, we have our own coconut plantation. This is a dry coconut. We extract the milk from it, and that's the milk that we put in our bar. We also have a vanilla, also real vanilla in our chocolate. Also, we call it 0 kilometers. Also, because the raw sugar cane is sourced from a co-op, a woman-run co-op from the area. They produce our sugar cane that we use to sweeten this bar. So we invite you to taste this bar. It's very unique, and it's just a real pleasure.
Our time together flew by quickly. Here to present our final bar is Tuta and Juliana from Baini in Brazil.
Greetings everyone from Baiani Factory. I'm Tuta Aquino.
I'm Juliana Aquino, and we are here to talk about...
This is the amazing double caramel made with our own cocoa butter. Can you imagine that? Cocoa butter from our own cacao, harvested at our own farm.
Yes, that's why we are true to our brand.
It's true.
And there is something special about it. That is, why is it called double caramel? Because we caramelize the sugar, of course, and the milk powder, which makes this wonderful color for the bar. And we
look at that.
Ooh.
That's our beautiful mold, the Baiani bar, with the double caramel that has almost a pumpkin-like color.
Wow.
I wonder what you would taste, and give us your impressions. I hope you like it. This is one of our favorites.
Yes, definitely. Please let us know.
So as we're getting close to the end of our time together today, there are just a few other themes that we wanted to make sure that we pointed out. So agriculture and export cash crops, they tend to be primarily men for a variety of reasons. When you start making food products at origin, these are much more likely to be involved with women. Then women in food culture, they go hand in hand. All of the products that you've tasted today are from either a tree to bar or direct trade company. Now, all of these companies are happy to share their environmental sustainability practices with you because there's something that they believe in and they recognise the importances of these. Many of the farms are also farming organically, even if they're not certified. So one of the questions that we are asked often is, how do I find brands that are doing the right thing? So we're going to leave some pro tips here for shopping fair, and these tips are also included in your tasting insert. First of all, you can look for tree to bar or farm to bar. So this will often be mentioned on the front or on the description of the labelling of the chocolate bar. Origin made. Many single origin chocolate will mention the origin of the cacao, what country the beans are from. And an easy way to discover if the bar is made at origin is to turn it over, and it will either say made in Nicaragua, Brazil, Ecuador, or it might say on the back of the packaging, it might say manufactured by, and it will list the country. So you can see if they match. As a note, all of the products listed on the Cocoa Future Collaborative website are origin made, and so we just wanted to make that clear. Direct trade or transparent trade, these are terms that you might find on the back of a label bar, and these are still great ways for shopping fair to identify those. Now, you also might be wondering why don't Fair Trade or Rainforest Alliance certifications top our list? Certifications, they sit at the top of kind of like a flawed food system, providing only a small premium, maybe less than 10%, for an unstable global marketing prices. So they're typically a good step, a positive step, but their most significant benefits lie in things like agricultural training, organisation, and export marketing, and they don't necessarily guarantee that the farmers themselves are earning a livable wage. Thanks so much. We really hope that you've enjoyed the experience here. If you'd like to connect with Cocoa Future or any of the makers, the details are just here. And please remember our makers and our tasting kits or any holiday gift giving for your chocolate loving friends. The links to purchase for each maker in the US are also available in your tasting guide. So we've come to an end. Thank you so much. We really hope you've enjoyed it. Now, if you want to host your own chocolate tasting with friends, family, or colleagues, here is what you need to do. We have 3 completely different kits available for purchase. Now, each kit is paired with a virtual on-demand video, just like this one. And for more information on hosting a tasting, contact us under About on the website. Thank you again for joining our Taste Chocolate from the Source. So you can find more information about our makers at our website, cocofuture.org. So please tell your chocolate-loving friends about us, rate our tastings so others also know what to expect. Subscribe to our monthly emails, follow us and the makers on social media, on their websites, and also the QR codes, and donate so that we can continue to create a fairer and more chocolatey world.